Scott Spreitzer, Kelly Stewart, Brian Leonard. We're talking some NFL this Sunday. It's the matchup between the Packers and the Vikings from Minneapolis. One of the biggest Joes versus Pros games took place last weekend when everybody in the general public basically plucked their money down on Green Bay to snap their two-game skid and laid all those points, but that number just kept coming down and down and down. Got as low as 10. I'm doing the ESPN NFL preview show with Kevin Winter on Sunday morning, and I had sent him 10.5s and 11s just a few hours previous, and all of a sudden here it comes. We see those 10s popping up, and of course Detroit goes in there and wins the game by a couple of points. But Kelly, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have the receivers to separate themselves from defensive backs on a consistent basis, and it's killing this offense. It's also hurting the potential for the running game.
I mean, losing Jordy Nelson was probably one of the worst things that's happened to Aaron Rodgers this year, and now we've seen it. I mean, I think initially when the injury came out, it was like, wow, that's going to hurt a little bit, but it's hurt a lot. Like you said, they've lost 3 games in a row. I'm still shocked they lost to the Lions. I was watching the game. You know, they punch it in last second, have a chance to tie the game and go into overtime, and I'm like, wow, the Packers just lost to the Lions. Yeah, mathematically we knew the Lions was the right side, but to actually win outright, I was just completely shocked. Not to mention that I'm also shocked because the Minnesota Vikings are leading the NFC North.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
it's funny. My buddy Matt sent me that futures. I threw down a nice Benjamin on it, and now I'm like, okay, I'll take that plus 650. Let's go Vikings.
Nice call by Matt. I mean, that's definitely. I mean, this is a team that under Mike Zimmer, for one thing, just builds those bankrolls, man. It's tough to go against a team that just continues to put money in your pocket. I got a couple of questions for you, Brian. First question, would you agree that a month ago when Green Bay was 6-0, whether they deserved to be or not, as far as their play is concerned, because of public perception, would have been about a 3-point favorite in this particular game? First question.
Oh, yeah. And I was one of those guys that was on Green Bay last week. That was my video. I'm not proud of that. When it was outright as a double-digit favorite. But, yeah, I saw that line movement, and at the time I think, oh, maybe I'm not on the right side of this one. But, yeah, they were a much better team back then. Obviously, the receiver situation wasn't really exposed. But now you're looking at it, because you can't find the receivers open, the defense is taking more of the load, and they're starting to revert back to the way the Packers played defense last year. And that's not what you want to see. Aaron Rodgers, you look at the stats from last year, he was incredible. It could go down as one of the greatest quarterback seasons in history when you look at the situation he had with that bad defense. They're still able to make the playoffs here. But, you know, Minnesota coming into the season, everybody loaded up, as you pointed out, on season wins over and taking them to win this division. And even though when you watch Minnesota, they're not overly impressive, they find ways to win. And I think that's what it's going to come down to in this game. I think they're going to find a way to win.
If it'll make you feel any better, my second favorite play last Sunday were the Oakland Raiders over the Minnesota Vikings. And my gut just kept saying, don't do it because of how well Minnesota has fared for all of us.
That's funny you say that. I had the Raiders circled, and I'm so glad I didn't play it, because that's exactly what kept me off is this Minnesota Vikings team does find ways to win. Mike Zimmer's 12-3 against the number in between away games. Fun little stat I read this morning. But historically, the Packers have owned this team, and I think it's finally time for the Vikings to say, you know what, we're tired of getting beat up by you guys year in and year out, twice a year. So here it is, and like you said, the Vikings are a 1-point favorite. It looks like the right side to me.
I saw one write-up, and I like the folks that do these write-ups, this particular site, that talked about this game and said, and I'll read it, it said basically that Green Bay still owns a class difference advantage over Minnesota due to Rodgers over Bridgewater. Kind of paraphrasing a little bit what they wrote. Do you agree with that they still own a class advantage? And then make this official, your play here.
I will say that, of course, Aaron Rodgers and Teddy Bridgewater, I mean, we're comparing an elite quarterback to still a guy that has a lot to learn. But I do like Teddy. I liked him in college. I think he's progressing really well with the Vikings. He's got Adrian Peterson back. I mean, who doesn't love Blair Walsh if you're betting on the Vikings week in and week out, because the guy basically is saving you.
Right.
So here's my official play: Vikings -1. I hope that they can get it done. I made them a 3-point winner in this game, so hopefully, like I said, Blair Walsh gets a nice little maybe 42-yard kick to win it all for us.
There you go. Play on the game.
I lean that way.
Minnesota?
Yeah, as long as you're getting less than 3 here, I think Minnesota's probably the right way to go.
If they cover this point spread, which is only 1, if they win this game, I should say, they go to 17-3 against the spread in their last 20 games, the Minnesota Vikings. They've been a bankroll builder, and now that everybody knows about it,
they're not going to be.
Don't say that.
Listen, he's Brian Leonard. You can check him out all weekend long, every day of the week, obviously, at wagertalk.com. Having a great run over the last 6 months. And Kelly Stewart, appreciate you coming down. kind of short notice there.
Hey,
so we appreciate you coming in and talking
I always
games.
appreciate you guys having me on.
You can check her out at kellyinvegas.com or on Twitter at kellyinvegas. Don't forget, big packages all weekend long. Game of the year going this weekend. We'll talk to you again next week.